Okay, the objective is by now we should have the your cloud API in AWS deployed. You should have the test application that's running. So in the event you're slightly behind time, it is okay. I mean, we do have clearly enough time for you to do the rest of the lab, right? In fact, the difficult one is the first part in the morning, deploy the cloud API and deploy the application policies for the front end and the web, right? So you do have enough time to continue, okay? So the next, we're going to go into the multi-site orchestrator, right? So so far in the morning, we have been interacting with one single cloud API, right? But once you start to have multiple sites, you have something in AWS, you have something in Azure, you have something in Google, you have something in on-prem, then it won't be sufficient just to talk to the cloud API. So this is where you need to use the multi-site orchestrator, right? Whereby it gives you the same interaction. You define contract, you define endpoint groups, and once this is defined, you can now push it across to all the different locations. Right? So this is where the ACI multi-site orchestrator comes into the picture, right? So imagine if you deploy two different parts of network, one in AWS, one in Azure, and you all use native. How do you maintain a consistent policy? In this example, right, we have the app that talks to the database. How do I maintain such that regardless of whether I deploy in AWS or Azure, I always allow TCP 3000 to come in? Right? How do I ensure that whenever the application talks to the database, it is always using TCP port 3306, for instance, right? It's going to be a challenge. So what we're going to do here is to provide an automated approach that I can go about defining policies centrally, right? I can push it across.
I think.
Yep.
Are you sharing your screen right now?
Sorry, I forgot. I thought also. Right. I thought presenter, I forgot overlook. Okay. So now the question is, how do I ensure consistency in my multiple cloud? So I want to have a way of defining a policy one time. I can push it across all the multi-cloud, right? So this is where we talk about how do I go about maintaining a consistent policy. Right. The next thing I want to do here is that as I deploy resource across the multi-cloud environment, I want to have a single logical view to understand how my endpoint groups are being created. I want to understand how the endpoint groups are interacting with one another, right? And all this can happen in a single pane of glass. And this is really where the multi-site orchestrator comes into the picture, right? So in terms of the implementation mode, all right? So this is one of the common deployments that we see in many customers. So in fact, in the lab today, this is what in the demo we'll show you this, right? So for some customers, it can be a cloud first only. That means I want to implement ACI capability, but I don't have any on-prem data center. It can be done. Multi-site orchestrator itself can be implemented on AWS. I can deploy multi-site orchestrator in Azure, or I can deploy multi-site orchestrator in the on-prem data center. Right? Either way, it behaves exactly the same. And to multi-site orchestrator, I can interact with the cloud API in AWS. I can interact with the cloud API I deploy in the Azure stack, right? So that's what multi-site orchestrator can do, right? So today we can do a maximum of 12 unique locations, right? So multi-site orchestrator come in a few form factors. The first time we encounter multi-site orchestrator when we first released, it was more of an OVA that I deployed in the vCenter, right? With the introduction of our application service engine cluster, PSE, or Nexus dashboard, right? Multi-site orchestrator can run on the hardware appliances. And also today, multi-site orchestrator can also be run on the public cloud. So I can deploy multi-site orchestrator on AWS, I can deploy in Azure, no problem, right? So that is a different form factor of MSO. For the lab today, we will be using this mode, right? We'll be using the OVA. Now, what is the reason of doing that? Well, in order for me to deploy multi-site orchestrator in AWS, it requires to have 3 instances in a cluster, and this is going to be quite costly for the lab. So as a result, we choose to deploy the multi-site orchestrator in on-prem data center. Right? But by all means, as your commission required, you can put MSO in the cloud, no problem. Okay, so I can use MSO, right, to go about defining a consistent policies. I can push this across into the multi-cloud. Now, so far, I think you've been spending some time to define all the APN, the contract, the filters in AWS API. how do you replicate this onto Azure, or how do you replicate this onto the on-prem data center? So this is where we can use the multi-cloud orchestrator to import the policies from the AWS Cloud API. Right? The next thing we do is we can use the multi-cloud orchestrator to re-export back into the Azure network. Right? So there's an import and export. So I can now have the policies consistent across all these multi-cloud environments. Okay. So that's what multi-cloud orchestrator can do, right? So let's look into some of the specifics when we interact with multi-cloud orchestrator. So in MSO, we introduce a few concepts. Right, first is what we call a schema. Right, a schema, think of it as a way to store the policies. So I have a schema, I store the policies. Then we also have templates. Right, templates live inside a schema. A template is to define a set of policies independent of the cloud. So I can define how application can talk to the database. Right? This is a template, but it is not specific to AWS. It is not specific to Azure. It is not specific to on-prem data center. Right? But what I can do is I can take this template and say apply this template against AWS, apply this template against on-prem data centers, or to apply these policies against on-prem data center, whatever you want. Right? So this is how the template is being used. Right? So schema, think of it like a way to organize information, right? Organize all the templates. Template is the one that defines the actual policies, right? So this is where the next slide comes in, right? So a template stay inside a schema, right? So within a schema, I can maintain different kind of templates. So in a way, it's for me to standardize all the policies, right? Once a template is defined, I can push a template against a physical site, against a cloud site. It doesn't matter, right? So we can use template to push across. In terms of relationship, one template can be applied into multiple locations, right? So this is just some of the basic construct. We'll talk about how we can use the template shortly. Okay. So some of the use case of the template, for instance, I can use template in a disaster recovery condition. So for instance, in the first example, I can define a template on how applications interact with each other, right? And this can be applied into both data center A and data center B at the same time, or I can also apply this onto the into the public cloud. Right? So in this illustration, it really doesn't matter whether this is cloud or this is on-prem, not important, right? Another usage, right? For some customers, they find that, look, even if I want to do disaster recovery, I do not want to have both data centers to be active. I want to have one to be active and one to be on standby mode. Right? So in this case, I can define template 1 that is applied to data center 1. I make a copy, I call it template 2. I will apply this across data center 2. However, in the normal time, template 1 is applied, template 2 is not applied. Template 2 is applied only when template 1 is gone. Right? So this is one way of doing things, and these two require some manual intervention, or I can write certain script to alternate between the active and the backup data center. Right? This is the future. Right? Coming up next, we will have another template form, which instead of cloning between template 1 and template 2, as you see in this example, right, we define one template, and then we say that, okay, in this condition, I would like the template to be applied to DC1, or I want the template to be applied to DC2. So this is another approach that template can be used, and this will come in the near term. Okay, so how do we use template? Okay, there is no hard and fast rule. This is the way. No. It depends on your application. It depends on your use case, right? So here are some of the concepts. Okay, so one of the common use is that I can apply a template, right? That can be applied across into one site. I can apply a template that is across all the sites, right? Now, why is that so? So, for instance, if I want to define something that uses something very specific to AWS, so I may have one template that applies to all the AWS sites. I may have one template that applies to all the Azure sites, or one template that applies to all the on-prem data centers, for example, right? Some of the stuff like contract filters, right, which is applied to everybody. Everybody must follow this contract filters that I define. In this case, my template can be applied across all the regions. Right? All the sites will have the same template. So in this case, I have one template that's built for site 1, right? I have one template that's being built for site 2. I have one template that's built for site 3. I have another template potentially defining all the contracts, all the EPG, all the figures. This is applied to all the sites, right? So this is just how template can be used. We will map this onto our lab exercise shortly. Okay. So how do you use a template, right? Of course, the easiest way is a greenfield environment whereby I don't have anything in place. First thing I do is I will deploy MSO. I define all my policies, how the front end talk to the database, how the front end talk to the external, how remote access, right, in MSO. Then for multi-site orchestrator, I can push these policies all the way to all the APIC, whether it's on-prem or cloud. That's one way. Right? So this is totally greenfield. Okay. Another approach, right, is what we can call it a brownfield environment, whereby instead of defining things in MSO, I can now import the policies from MSO, from existing APIC to MSO. Okay. So like just now in the last 1 or 2 hours, you go about defining policies in Cloud APIC or AWS, right? So what I can do is, you do not want to redefine everything in MSO, right? You want to use MSO to import the policies you define in AWS, right? Then from there, you want to reapply these policies. Maybe you make some changes. You apply back to another site or back to the original site, right? So this is where multi-site orchestration can come in very handy in integrating a brownfield environment or to extend the AWS to the Azure public cloud. So this is what we can do. Right? In fact, we're going to do this in the lab area. Okay. So let me skip through this. Okay. So this is, I think I can't repeat this earlier. Okay. So let's revisit how we want to apply the template, right, in our lab exercise. Right. So this is what we have done in the first part, right? We have done this one just now. So what we're going to do now is to create a new instance in Azure. Okay, create a new instance in Azure, and we are going to add Azure into the site and extend the policy across. So how do I go about implementing these policies consistently? What is a more systematic approach of everything? Okay, so let me just go to the slide. For that, let me make sure I also start up all the. Where is my MSO? Hold a second. Okay, so this will be the lab that you will be using. Hold on, I lost some slides. Okay, come back to here. Okay, so this will be the lab scenario that we're going to do for the second half of the day. Okay, so what we're going to do is, if you look into the design, okay, so this is how we intend. I mean, this is just a suggestion. By all means, in your actual environment, you don't have to follow this. This is just a guideline because this is very specific onto how we design the customer test case. Okay, every customer has a different environment. So first of all, I have the application front end, and this is going to be implemented across in AWS, across Azure. So as such, I'm going to create a template called app template. Right? App template is meant for all the front end instances, right? And this will be applied to AWS and Azure. Okay. Then I'm going to have another template. It's called database template. Database template is meant to host the SQL server. Okay. However, the database server will be in AWS during the QA and development stage. When you move to the production stage, it will move to the on-prem data center. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a database template that will apply to AWS during the QA, which is what you have explained just now, during the development stage, right, which is the next part where you integrate the Azure. At the final stage, right, we are going to have the database template apply against the on-prem data center. So in this case, I will remove the template from AWS. I will apply to on-prem data center. All right. The other thing I also have is the a template that contain all the DIF, the contract, the filters. Right? This is applied to all the sites. So that's why I have a template that will be applied to Azure, to AWS, also to the on-prem data center. So this is how we do the template design. Right? Again, your real life customer scenario can be totally different. Right? So this is just an example of how this looks like. Okay, so let's do one thing first. Because of the constraint logistic we have, in order for you to continue with the next lab, you need to VPN to the lab in Singapore. This is the IP address. So what I'll do is I will cut and paste this and put it onto the same screen. And this is also in your PowerPoint as well. Okay? You need to VPN using this IP address. Use any connect. Your profile should be trusted. You key in your account ID as cloud ACI dash whatever part number, and this is the password that you have. Okay. So once you log into the system, we have predefined a number of multi-site orchestrator for you. So you don't have to install MSO, is good for you. Right. So this is the range of MSO that will be assigned to a respective port. So port 1 will be 4101 all the way until port 20. Right. So these are the different MSO that's being assigned to you, and this is the corresponding password. Okay. So once you log into the MSO, right, you need to change the password. Right. I make a mistake here. This one is not done for you. Derek, this one is not correct. I make a mistake. Okay. So when you come in, you need to key in the password. Welcome to MSC, and then you key in whatever password you want. So make sure you can remember the password. Okay. MSO will force you to change the password because what you're seeing here is the first MSO deployed on the factory. So there's really nothing pre-configured. Okay. So this part is required. You need to VPN in. Okay. Once you VPN in, right, I will come back to here again. So later on, we go through the step, right? So what we're going to do is you're going to add the AWS side, right? So you need your cloud API to be working. You need to get the API running. After the API is running, you will import the tenant. Okay. So this is a checklist. You must have the IP address of the cloud API. You must have the admin password. You must have the ID for the cloud API. Okay. You will add API as your first site. Then you will import the existing contract. Right? So this is you import the existing tenant. So you remember just now when you define the first tenant in cloud API, right, you need to key in the AWS ID, the key, and the secret. Okay. So if you select the import existing tenant, this information will be automatically populated, so you don't have to key in again. So this is one of the tasks that you need to do, right? To avoid all these steps. So again, the rest are all the detailed instructions. Well, I will not go through them. I will show you through the live demo, but before that, I will make sure that you can connect to the VPN first. Okay. So let's connect to the VPN. Okay, I put this onto your chat room so you all can follow this. Okay, once you're ready in the VPN, let us know so we know we can proceed. Okay, once you see that, please thumbs up so we can proceed. Derek, you know any port not used?
I can check. I think
yeah, 20 empty, right?
12 is empty.
I will use 12. I will 12. No, I will use the main port. Okay, while waiting, I also turn on the other.
Yep. Question seems the VPN connection is okay.
Yes, I run in. Okay, in case you are far away from Singapore or you have a slow bandwidth, be patient. It will work. Yesterday we have done a few sessions, it was okay too. I will not turn on 18 to 20 because I have nobody using. Unless someone. Okay, depend on the machine type. Right, different machine will, I mean, whether you're running on Windows or Linux, this is how you connect to the VPN. Right, you are going to see a warning. Don't worry about it. This is my private VPN. So this is not private set. Right, you will select host type. You key in whatever name that you have assigned. Right, so let me just borrow top ACR dash. I use computer. Okay, the password is C1SCO 383 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so you need to connect to the VPN, otherwise nothing will work. Right, so this is how you can access the Microsoft Azure. Okay. Okay, so once you're inside, you can open up the Microsoft Illustrator. In case you're using a Mac, I would recommend to use Chrome. Because there was some part, because of the different Mac OS version, Safari may give problem. Okay, so if you can, use Chrome. Okay, so once you're inside, you will connect to your MSO. Your key is whatever, 192. 40.120. Our ball port ND. In case your port ND, let me know. Okay. That's for my observation thing. Don't worry on that. I keep port ND. Let me share my screen as well, so easy for you to see. Fresh. MSO. Okay, it will take some time to roll up. So once it's in, just all these are just first time we deployed just a few hours ago. So for certain script that you download. Okay, so you key in a password. right? By default, this is a factory default. So in the factory default, there is a predefined password when you first deploy Multi-Site Orchestrator. Right? So this is inside the if you go to the Multi-Site MSO installation guide, it's exactly the same. Right? So the default password is capital WE1 small COME to MSD estimation. Right? So the next thing we'll do is it will ask you for a password. Right? Please remember the password that you configured here. Right? So if you key in the wrong password, you don't remember the password that you have for. Right? So to make life easy, so Kenyan, to make life easy, you use password like 12345 capital C exclamation S 12345. Share password, no problem. Okay, let me see it. 12345 C exclamation S C O 12345. Okay, so these are some of the general security practices. So that's why actually it's a bit inconvenient on the password. So in case you worry, you got to guess all the different combinations. Right? So this one guarantee because I have numbers, I have capital letters, I have exclamation. Okay, so this one not likely to be wrong. Right? So I'll just use this for password. I submit, I log in. Okay, so now I'm inside the Multi-Site Orchestrator. Okay, now a few things we have. Again, this is where I was stopped. Okay, so this is just to make sure that you can connect to your Multi-Site Orchestrator. So once you're ready, you can connect on this. Please try and place your screen and post onto the window so we know you're ready. Okay. Right. I hope this is not too difficult. Connect VPN and connect to the MSO. Great. Now we are in. Yes, you can add the API later. You can proceed if you want to. It's not that difficult. AP is referring to your AWS IP address and credential, whatever you want. That you defined just now. Okay. Since you are here, what we can do, you can actually add your first slide. Right. There's one part I just want to highlight. So if you remember just now in the cloud API, you define the tenant. In the cloud API, you define your tenant, which maps to an AWS account. So if you open this guy, open it, right? Then there's this part that asks you for all these ID and password. So let's say, I mean, when you do the import, this information can be automatically absorbed into the MSO. You don't have to redefine it. So what I do is I'm going to cut and paste this on, just show you how it works. So I can key in the this for AWS user. In IP address, in ID, okay. My ID is 100. Okay. ID 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's go to the default condition and okay. Okay. So after you click save, there's this part. It says that import from tenant, right? You should say yes, because if you don't select, later MSO will ask you for the AWS credential for the user tenant again. Right? So what I do, I will say, okay, that's important. Okay. So you select the tenant and you proceed, right? So this will finish importing the tenant already. Right? So quite straightforward, quite easy. Right? So if you open up the tenant, and say finish. So you can come back to the tenant later. You can come back to this tenant and open up this orchestrator. So this is where we have all the details provided. So let me just go to the tenant information. You can go to the tenant. Select this tenant. You can select the pencil case, pencil sign. So this information is auto-populated. You don't have to key in again. So in the event you miss the import from tenant, it's not the end of the world, right? You can still come here to enter back your tenant information. Okay, so it's not that much of a problem. You can still come and do it in case you miss the import part. Okay, looks like we only have 2 port already, all from Malaysia. Any question at this stage? Anybody lost VPN connections? Anything? Okay, I'll just wait a few minutes. Anyhow, the information in the PowerPoint, you can follow that. I'm just explaining what we're doing. Okay, I can check the AWS. So let's see how many ports still active. So that this is the status. How many APIs still alive? 2 is up. 2, 5, 6. 2, 5, 6, 7. 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 5, 6, 7, 6, 9, 10, 11. Shall open. Shall will 14, 16. Okay, I think 20 is quite safe. 17. So we have port 1, 3, 4. We are not used. In case any, we can reallocate anyone into. So, okay. Anybody else still struggling to VPN? All good before I will put it, because I can't know your status. So I need to see mastery and TV ready.
Question: Partners are supposed to configure the MSO section now, or
Yeah, we
can test the VPN
now
connection.
I'm checking the VPN. Make sure your VPN can come in. So anybody still start with VPN?
Yeah, basically just need to establish the AnyConnect VPN that will do, so that we can proceed to check on the MS. Continue to go through the MSO section to go through how to add the sites in MSO.
Okay, so you need to make sure you can VPN in. Once you VPN in, this is the address of VPN. This is your ID, this is your password, and this is your MSO assignment. Right, so I'll be using port 20 if no one uses. Okay, Derek, move on.
Yep, let's go.
Okay, so once you have installed MSO, what you do is you have to add your tenant, like what we explained just now. Right, you can just when you add the site, modify orchestrator will ask you to import the tenant. Important is make sure you import the tenant from this side. Okay, so you will use the following information. You can, I mean, for to make things easy, it's good to have a proper name information. So in this case, for the lab, we're going to use tenant name with AWS-XX. Right? You can use any name, but make sure you know what you have configured here. Right? You key in the IP address, admin, and you key in the site ID. Right? So the next thing it will ask you to do is to import. Of course, answer is yes. You will say yes. Accept. Okay. Then you ask you to select which tenant to import. So this will automatically take in all the credentials, right, to talk to the AWS cloud API. Okay. So the next thing we do is we're going to talk about how we do the schema and so forth. Right? So in terms of planning, okay. So it's important to understand how you want to organize your policies model, right? Understand how the schemas templates are being designed, and we are going to do that. Right? So this is what we discussed earlier, that we have to define schemas as such. This is very specific for the lab exercise. Right? Again, your real life condition. Okay. So the first thing is we're going to define schemas. Right? Because of the design that I showed here, in total, I need to have one template, two templates, and three templates. Three templates will be needed. So as such, we're going to define three templates, right? I will define a schema for photo app, anything you can call it. Then I'm going to create a template for common app and database. Okay. Now the last thing you want to do is to redefine all the contract, all the filters again on the multi-site orchestrator, because you already done this in Cloud API, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to import from Cloud API into MSO, and then we are going to reapply this to the Microsoft Azure instances, right? So this is where you're going to import the policies of common app and database, right? That's just that. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do. So you can still continue the PowerPoint. I will use my screen to show you how this is being done. If you're ready, you can follow along. If not, you can also follow the PowerPoint slide that's given to you, which will show you exactly the same thing. Okay, so let's assume that you have defined all this already. So this is port 20. Okay, I'll save it. Okay, so no one is port 20. I'll just take over. So I'm going to create a new schema. Right. So schemas is under application development. So I will select schemas. I will add schemas. Right. So I will call this schema. Okay. I'll add. So now you have a new schema. Okay. So what we're going to do is to define three templates. One template is the application, one is database, and one is common. So the first template I'll define here is called the common. Right? And this is referring to tenant 0. Right? Then I'll save. Okay, so I just map, I create a template for common, and this is a file for tenant 0. I need two more templates, and the next template is going to be called database. I'll call it app first. Right? And this is going to be info 0. So I'll create all the different templates, and this is the last template, and this is going to be called database. Right? And this again is going to be applied for tenant 0. Right? So now I have I've created three templates, right? Common application database, and what we do here is to import from AWS. Okay, so what are we going to import from AWS? We're going to import all the contracts being defined. We're going to import all the EPG being defined. Okay, so pay attention to this. If you just import as it is, you may end up creating more step data. Okay. So we're going to import all these three templates. Okay. So one thing that I want you to be careful of is that first of all, multi-site orchestrators do not understand what have you configured in cloud AWS, right? I mean, they really don't know what's going on. Okay. So you have to be careful because if you just ask cloud MSO to import everything on common, everything on app, everything on database, this will also import all the relationships. That means you will end up having common importing the VRF for photo app, and app importing the same VRF, and database importing the same VRF, and so forth. It will create multiple overlapping VRF with the same name, and this will be a problem, right? So you don't want to do that, right? So what I do is follow the step, which is also in the PowerPoint slide as well. So what is important is when you import at time, you have to be careful, right? What not to import, okay? So for the lab design, what we want to do is we want to import everything except the application and database EPG. So this is going to include all the, if you look into the PowerPoint slide, the next few slides, okay? So this is the one that you need to pay attention to, right? If you miss this, you can be going back and forth, okay? So the common template, you are going to import all the policies. You are going to import all the external EPG. At the same time, you will select the import relationship. Basically, anything that do with this external EPG, right? Anything, VRF, contract, filter, import together, right? I also import the contract with all the import relationship, right? This relationship that I talk about here also include the EPG to EPG communication. So you will just import the contract. You will know which are the EPG that you will link to. Right? So later on, when you import the database at the next few steps, it will automatically select all this. So you will do the APN, the VRF, the filter. So all this will be automatically selected once you select the information of the phase 2. Okay. For the app and database, when you import into the template, right? Only import the EPG and the relationship, but don't import the VRF. Right? If you import, then you may run into some deployment issue later, like we notice there's a duplicate VRF, right? Why is that? So because at this stage, MSO do not know what is the relationship. We don't know yet. Right? We need to finish the import, then we do the relationship. Okay? So this is how the common template works. So when we say import relationship, we're referring to this one, right? This will import anything that is associated with this external EPG. Okay? Then you will select all the contract, and likewise you also select import relationship. So this is what you can do. Okay. Other than that, after you import the common policies, the next thing is you want to push it back to the cloud API. So at least now we synchronize the policies between MSO and cloud API. So now I understand. Oh, when you say VRF in the cloud API, it means the VRF I have in multi-site orchestrator. So this is where we talk about all the brownfield integration to make sure that I understand you. We synchronize the common understanding, right? So once this is done, I will go ahead to import the other two EPG, right? I will import the relationship. The only thing I can do is I do not import the VRF, okay? Because in the first part, when I import the common policies, right, I import the relationship, right? there is only one part of the EPG communication. So this is giving the second part of the EPG communication. And in MSO 3.1, we actually also link up all the solution for you. So you do not have to redefine everything for you again, right? So let me show you how this is being done. Okay, so this is common, right? So common is supposed to import everything except the application and database EPG, right? So you can select common, you select import, then you see the tenant come out automatically. Right? So this tenant, okay? This will show you a list of policy elements that I can import from AWS 0.0. Okay, so I will select photo app. Ignore about this one because this one was added just now, right? For illustration, I will select external EPG. Okay, I select import relationship. Okay, I will select contract. Right, I will select all the contracts. Okay, and I make sure there's ignore the pin shouldn't be. I don't know pin for illustration. Okay, you notice that once I select all the contracts, right, I select the import relationship, right. This also includes all the filters that need to be imported. Right? This also includes the VIF that need to be imported. Right? All this because of the import relationship that I have selected. Right? So itself is able to know, okay, this EPG, which contract is it related to? So I'll put in the contract. Right? I will say that, okay, this contract is needed. What other filters is required? As a result, I also import the filters. Right? The last thing you want here is that you import the EPG, then no contract. Then you import the contract, there's no filter. Right? So all this can be eliminated by choosing the import relationship. Right? So I will import it now. Right? So now you can see that now this is in AWS. You can see that this is happening here. Okay. So what I can do is after I import, I can select all the sites. Right. So even though here it seems to tell you that it's going to create all these things, right? In real life, it's actually doing a synchronization between the MSO and the cloud API. So let me just say this one. Okay. So you'll see that this is now showing you that this is synchronized. Okay. A few other things you can notice is, if you remember just now, we defined the cloud context profile in AWS, right? We say that there's a cloud context profile with AP Southeast one, we define the cyber address and so forth, right? So if you expand the VIF, you'll start to see all these, if you go to the AWS common, expand the VIF, you will see all these definitions. These are the region that I define, this is the cyber address, this is the TGW I'm using, and these are the standard abstraction. So everything that I define in Cloud API is now imported, right, onto the multi-cloud orchestration, right? So this is just one part of the task only. We're not completed yet. Okay. So the next thing we do is we're going to the application. Okay. Likewise, I'm going to import AWS. Okay. I will select application EPG only, which is the front end, right? I will select import relationship. Okay, everything else I will not select. I will select app is within the front end EPG, right? Then I'll select import relationship. Right? So this is done. And likewise, I do the same. I will import relationship again. Right? Again, be careful. Only import the database. Right? If we have more time, you can try to enable, VIF. You will start to see some errors telling you that there are two VIF. You tell me which one to use. Okay. So because of the lag, we don't have enough time for you to go through all this troubleshooting. So we'll pick it up. So you just select database, import relationship, then you're done. Okay. So likewise, we do the same thing. We deploy the site to make sure that this is synchronized. We'll see it. Okay, I think I'm going to do something. Okay, so that's what you will do in your lab exercise. It's called the EPG. Okay, I think I'm going to do it. I go and import this. Okay, hold on. So this is the form. Just now I'm not careful. So look at attention. So now it's okay. So now there's no to be there. Let's try again. And because it's already before. Okay, for your lab should be okay because this is something that's really running already, so it's quite simple for me to do. because I have another MSO talking to this. Okay, if you can continue, let me figure out what is wrong on my side. Okay, let me check what is wrong. Because there's another MSO talking to the same APIC.
Okay, question. So partners can start doing the lab for chapter 2 now, right? Sorry, chapter 3 now, right?
So now we are on the MSO. So you should be on the slide on MSO lab, right?
Yeah. If you're still doing the AWS lab, yeah, do continue to try that one. Hopefully you can get the minion page up. I think that is already a very good achievement, deploying the APIC and ensuring that you got the right routing within the AWS network. Right. So do continue if you haven't shut down the lab yet.
We are continuing with this. Let me check what is wrong with my MSO. Because I have another MSO that comes to the same APIC.
Question: how much time should we allocate for this section? So
let's try to finish in about another, let's say by
3:45.
3:45.
Okay, so I think we have about 30 to 35 minutes to complete this MSO section.
That should be quite easy. Should be easy.
So we will continue the next section on Azure at 3:45 p.m. Singapore time. Okay.
And deploy. Okay, just now speaking. Okay. Problem solved. Let me share my screen. So even myself can make mistake. So be careful when you import. Okay, but anyhow, you will take some time in the event that you have some problem. Okay. So this is the expected outcome. Okay. So I have the common imported. You can see that all your contracts, right, all your filters are imported. I have the database also imported. Application now, you can see that this is imported. I have all the contracts that I defined earlier is all imported. Right. Then you can look into some of the sub-specific in AWS. How do I define front end? So if you know just now, you define tier equal to front end. Right? So this information will be defined here as well. Right? So tier custom tier equal to front end. So this is automatically same as well for the database. Right? So this is I'm just importing information from the AWS cloud onto my knowledge orchestration. Right? Nothing else. Right? Very, very simple. So we're not defining new policies. We're just learning what has been configured. Okay. A bit quiet. I think we have sent the lab guide is under chapter 3 MSO lab 1.1.
Yeah, it was sent earlier. Let me come into the Teams again. So.
Sorry, don't test this one. I will shut down first.
But they don't spin out anything, right? So there's nothing for you to shut down, right?
As well. I turn on all the 20.
Okay, but it's not too difficult to spin it out again later, right?
Shut down only. I can shut it down only.
Okay, okay.
Otherwise, cost us money. 1, 3, 4. I will turn off 1, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4, 13. I will turn off. When needed, we can turn on again. It won't take long. One, three, four. Eleven, 12, 14, 14, 15. 15 okay as well. I'll just turn off